June 4th, 1942. For 30 hours. The vast Pacific stretches black and endless beneath a thin veil of clouds. Aboard the Japanese flagship Akagi, Admiral Chuchi Yamamoto stands on the bridge, eyes fixed on the horizon. The air carries the sharp tang of aviation fuel and salt. For carriers Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, steam in perfect formation, their decks alive with Zero fighters and Valdai bombers warming engines. Flight crews move with disciplined calm. This is a combined fleet, masters of the ocean since Pearl Harbor. Singapore fallen, Philippines crushed, the Dutch East Indies seized. American carriers believed scattered or hiding. Midway Atoll, a tiny speck ahead, will fall by nightfall. Then the trap will close on whatever remains of a U.S. Pacific fleet. Far to the northeast, unseen, 3 American carriers lurk beyond the curve of the earth. Enterprise, Yorktown, Hornet, Admiral Chester Nimitz has played his hand in absolute secrecy. Code breakers at Pearl Harbor, men and women hunched over intercepted messages in dim underground rooms, have peeled back Yamamoto's plan like layers of silk. They know the exact day, the exact hour, the exact order of battle. Nimitz has positioned his force to strike first, to strike hardest. On Akagi's flight deck, the first wave launches at dawn. 108 aircraft rise into the pale sky. Bombers, fighters, torpedo planes, heading for Midway's airfields. Captains shout orders. Pilots wave confidently. They expect little resistance. Midway's defenders should be crushed before breakfast. But high above, unseen by Japanese lookouts, American PBY Catalina flying boats have already spotted the carriers hours earlier. Radio messages crackle across the waves. Main body for carriers. Bearing. Now, as the Japanese strike force claws for altitude, Task Force 16 and 17 turn into the wind. Flight decks shudder. Dauntless dive bombers and Devastator torpedo planes are spotted forward, engines coughing to life. Pilots, some still teenagers, climb into cockpits with grim determination. They know the odds. They know Japanese Zeros are lethal. They know their torpedo planes are slow, underarmed, obsolete, yet the decks tilt. Catapults hiss. One by one, the American squadrons roar into the sky. The hunters have become the hunted, and the morning sun, rising blood-red over the Pacific, is about to witness the most decisive 5 minutes in naval history. June 4th, 1942, 6:15 hours. The bridge of Akagi hums with quiet confidence. Admiral Nagumo receives a report from the strike leader, Lieutenant Tomonaga. Midway's airstrips are battered, hangars aflame, but the runways are still usable. More aircraft are rising to oppose. A second strike is needed. High explosive bombs, not the armor-piercing ones currently loaded below decks of the expected American fleet. Nagumo hesitates. His orders are clear. Reserve half the aircraft, armed with torpedoes and heavy bombs, for enemy carriers. Intelligence insists no American flat tops are within hundreds of miles. Yet caution tugs at him. He issues the fateful command, rearm the reserve planes. Deck crews swarm below, wheeling torpedoes back to magazines, hauling up land bombs. Chaos in the hangars. Fuel hoses snake across decks. Everywhere, the smell of avgas thickens the air. On Midway itself, smoke rises in black columns. Marine pilots, scarce, outnumbered, scramble what remains. Battered buffaloes, old vindicators, a handful of dauntless. They climb into the sky knowing they face Zeros flown by veterans of China and Pearl Harbor. They attack anyway. High overhead, the first American scouts return Enterprise and Hornet. Lieutenant Commander Wade McCluskey circles, fuel running low, searching for the Japanese fleet he knows must be out here. The math is brutal. Yet he guesses wrong. His entire air group ditches in the ocean. Then, a glint on the horizon, a lone Japanese destroyer steaming back toward the main body. McCluskey banks hard, follows the wake, and there, spread across the blue like toys in a bathtub, the 4 carriers, turning into the wind, decks crowded with aircraft. McCluskey's voice crackles over the radio. This is McCluskey. Contact. 4 carriers, cruisers, destroyers. Proceeding to attack. At that exact moment, aboard Akagi, a lookout shouts the warning no one expected. Enemy aircraft, high overhead. Nagumo looks up, tiny specks against the clouds. American dive bombers, already in position. The decks are littered with bombs, fuel lines, torpedoes. Zeros are still climbing from defensive patrols. No combat air patrol remains above the fleet. The admiral's face tightens. In minutes, the sky will fall. June 4th, 1942, 10:22 hours. The sun burns high over the Central Pacific. From 20,000 feet, Lieutenant Commander Clarence Wade McCluskey leads 30 dauntless dive bombers from Enterprise in a steep, screaming descent toward Akagi and Kaga. Behind him, Lieutenant Commander Maxwell, Leslie's squadron from Yorktown hurtles down on Soryu. The airframe shakes. Wind howls past canopies. Gunners grip their twin .30 calibers. Below, the Japanese fleet erupts in panic. Anti-aircraft guns open up. Black puffs blossom everywhere. Zeros streak upward, but too few. Too late. Deck crews sprint across Akagi's flight deck, shoving fuel bozers and bomb trolleys overboard. Torpedoes still lie exposed. Aviation gasoline vapors hang thick. McCluskey rolls inverted. Lines are red of his telescopic sight on Akagi's rising sun flag painted amidships. He pulls the dive brakes. The world narrows to the carrier's wooden deck rushing up at impossible speed. Release. The 1,000-pound bomb separates, whistles down. One after another, the dauntless follow. Bombs detach in perfect intervals. The first hits Akagi just aft of the island. A massive orange fireball erupts, engulfing parked Zeros and Vals. Secondary explosions ripple through the hangar. Torpedoes cooking off in chain reactions. Flames race along fuel lines. In seconds, the flagship is a torch. Almost simultaneously, Kaga takes 4 direct hits. Bombs plunge the flight deck into crowded hangars where rearming is still frantic. The explosions lift the entire deck like a tin lid. A towering column of black smoke and burning aircraft parts rises thousands of feet. Soryu, turning hard to evade, catches 3 bombs in rapid succession. Her boilers burst. Steam and fire pour from ruptured decks. 3 carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, mortally wounded in less than 6 minutes. Crewmen on the destroyers stare in stunned silence. Sailors on the carriers themselves fight fires with garden hoses against infernos fed by thousands of gallons of fuel. Officers shout orders that no one can obey. High above, the American pilots pull out low over the water, engines roaring, dodging frantic tracer fire. Some grin fiercely. Others simply stare back at the burning giants they have just crippled. But the battle is not over. Hiryu, the 4th carrier, steams north, still intact. Her strike group is already airborne, Val dive bombers and Zero escorts racing toward the reported American position. Yorktown's radar lights up with incoming bogies. The reversal has begun, but vengeance is coming. June 4th, 1942. Early afternoon. Smoke columns rise like funeral pyres on the graves of 3 mighty carriers. Akagi drifts helpless, her flight deck a twisted ruin, fires raging below. Captain Aoki orders abandon ship as explosions rock the hull. Kaga has already rolled over, her bow plunging under, hundreds of men sliding into the shark-infested water. Soryu follows soon after, a final massive detonation tearing her in half. Yamamoto, transferred to a cruiser, stares back at the burning horizon in silence. The architect of Pearl Harbor watches his grand design unravel, but one carrier remains. Hiryu steams north at flank speed, hidden by a rain squall. Rear Admiral Taman Yamaguchi, fierce and resolute, refuses to spare. His scouts have located the American force. Yorktown looms on the horizon, recovering her own aircraft. Yamaguchi launches everything he has left. 18 Val dive bombers, escorted by 6 Zeros under Lieutenant Michio Kobayashi. The Japanese strike claws through scattered clouds. American radar on Yorktown picks them up late. 40 miles and closing fast. Wildcats scramble, but the Val's borne with grim precision. Yorktown twists desperately through the water, her 5-inch guns thundering. The sea erupting in white geysers. 3 bombs find their mark. The first punches through the flight deck near the island, igniting fires. The second explodes in the uptake spaces, snuffing out half her boilers. Smoke pours from her stacks. The third hits deep, starting raging fuel fires. Yorktown slows, listing. Her deck of chaos of burning aircraft and wounded men. Captain Elliot Buckmaster fights to save her. Damage control parties rushing below with hoses and foam. Yet even wounded, Yorktown's fighters tear into retreating Japanese. Only 5 Vals and 3 Zeros limp back to Hiryu. Yamaguchi received the report. 1 American carrier hit hard, possibly sinking. Hope flickers. He prepares a second strike. 10 Kate torpedo planes, led by Lieutenant Hashimoto. As the sun lowers toward the west, the torpedo planes take off into gathering clouds. They will not return. High above, fresh Dauntless from Enterprise, led by Leslie and others who have rearmed on distant decks, have found Hiryu's wake. The final act approaches. June 4th, 1942. Late afternoon sliding into evening. The Pacific swells roll heavy under a darkening sky. Aboard Hiryu, Admiral Yamaguchi watches a second strike. 10 K torpedo planes and a handful of Zeros disappear into the clouds. He knows this is the last throw. His scouts report Yorktown damaged, smoking, perhaps doomed. If this attack finishes her, the battle might yet balance. He paces the bridge, calm exterior masking the storm within. Far to the south, 24 Dauntless dive bombers from Enterprise in Yorktown. Refueled, rearmed, relentless. Close on Hiryu's position. Lieutenant Samuel Adams leads one group, Lieutenant Earl Gallagher another. They spot her wake trailing white against the deep blue. Hiryu turns into the wind to recover her first strike survivors. Her deck is nearly clear. Perfect. The Dauntless tip over into their dives. Anti-aircraft fire erupts. Bright tracers arc upward. Zeros claw for altitude, but the bombers are already screaming down at 70 degrees. Pilots feel the G-forces crush them into seats. The carrier swells in their sights. 4 bombs strike home. The first explodes amidships, ripping open the forward elevator. The second and third hit the hangar, igniting ready aircraft and fuel. The fourth plunges into bridge itself. Flames burst outward in a roar that silences every scream. Hiryu shudders, mortally gashed. Fires spread with terrifying speed. Captain Tomio Kaku fights to save her, but secondary explosions tear through the hull. By nightfall, he gives an order to abandon ship. Yamaguchi refuses to leave. He stands with Kaku on the tilting deck as water laps higher. Together they bow toward the Emperor's distant palace. Then the sea claims them both. By dawn on June 7th, American destroyers deliver the coup de grace to the burning hulks of Akagi and Hiryu. For fleet carriers, pride of the Imperial Navy, veterans of every triumph since December, gone in a single day. Over 3,000 Japanese sailors and airmen perish. The cream of their naval aviation, pilots trained for years, irreplaceable, vanish beneath the waves. Yorktown, though battered, fights on until Japanese submarines find her 2 days later. But the exchange is lopsided beyond imagination. Nimitz's gamble, built on fragile intelligence and raw courage, has shattered the myth of Japanese invincibility. Yamamoto turns the remnants homeward in silence. The initiative slips forever from his grasp. From this moment, the road leads only one way, toward Tokyo Bay, 3 long years distant. The unbeatable Armada lies broken. The Pacific War has turned.